Hey guys, I got all my railing posts installed and I'm plugging away on some railing right now. Just want to give you a couple quick pointers on that process as well. This section right here is what I'm working on currently. The piece that I need to cut is 64 3/4. I got it set up underneath the deck, so I'll run down there and show you how I'm cutting that. But before I go down there, I want you to kind of notice that something up here, and this will make more sense later. I'm just under 4 inches right there, 3 3/4 from the between the post and the first baluster, and I got the same measurement on this side. So that railing is symmetrical between the post and the first baluster on the inside there, and that's going to be true all the way around the project. So remember that, and I'll show you why that's important and how I'm doing it. Alrighty, so the beginning of a little doodle for you. With prefabricated railing, there's a temptation just to take your measurement and cut the railing to length. 9 times out of 10, that railing is not going to land perfectly where you need it to if you just cut it to length. So you're going to end up with baluster, 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 baluster. And this gap and this gap are so different that it's kind of an eyesore. It's something that'll catch your eye pretty quickly. So aesthetically, it's better if it's symmetrical inside that panel. There's another mistake that you can make with this approach that's actually even worse, and that's to do baluster, 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 baluster. Don't have room for another baluster here, so I'm just going to omit it entirely. And the problem with this is that if this gap is over 4 inches, let's say it's 4 1/4, it becomes a code violation. Code limits the gap between balusters or between baluster and post to 4 inches maximum. Over 4 inches becomes an entrapment hazard, where a child could potentially stick their head through the railing system and they'd be able to squeeze through it, but they wouldn't be able to get back out. So that becomes an entrapment hazard. That's the reason why 4 inches is the magic number. So this looks ugly. This will actually fail your project. You would not be able to pass inspection with that. So the panel that I just showed you on the top side is actually a pretty good illustration of that. Let me grab my tape measure here. .64 3/4 is what I need, which actually lands directly on top of a baluster. I could cut it at 64 5/8 and skip that baluster, but I'm going to run into a problem with symmetry, which is that I have 3 3/4 to that baluster, but on this end I've only got 1 3/4, so that's going to become an eyesore. Hypothetically, let's say my railing, the panel I needed was at 65 1/4, to where the cut that I would be making is actually right here. It's on this side of the baluster, not on this side, hypothetically. That's where guys get into trouble, is because they'll just cut this baluster out, top and bottom, and then cut it to length at 65 1/4. The problem with doing that is that now I've created a gap between my last baluster and my post that's 4 1/2 inches. so it becomes a safety issue. The correct way to do it, this is RDI, which I really like. I think it's really nice material. All of their panels come with a slightly shorter end on the very outside baluster, but if I skip over one section, I have 3 3/4. This is 1 3". This is 3 3/4. And that's just how they're manufactured. So knowing that, I'm on the inside of that baluster now instead of on the outside, and that gives me more room to play with 64 3/4. So if I make a tick mark here, which is really hard one-handed because I'm holding my hand, if I make a tick mark there at 64 3/4, I'm going to take this measurement, which is roughly 2 inches. We'll just call it 2 inches for the purposes of math. And then I'm going to measure this distance as well, which is 3 3/4. I'm going to add both of them together. So 2 inches plus 3 3/4 is 5 3/4. Divide by 2 is 2 7/8. I've already got one pencil mark there. I think it's 2 7/8 is what I figured. Yeah. And that's going to give me the same 2 7/8 over here as well. So that's how you get it symmetrical. Don't chop off a baluster and cut it to length. Take the extra time just to measure the entire span that you need. Whatever excess you have on each end of the baluster, you add both together, divide by 2, and that gives you the average on each side of the baluster. That's how you get it symmetrical. I was gonna pause it, but actually I'll just keep it rolling real quick. I'm gonna make that cut just so you can see how simple it really is. It's not a whole lot of extra work, but it is worth it in the long run. I use a Sawzall. You can use a grinder if you want, doesn't really matter. Sawzall's pretty quick and clean though. So there's 64 3/4 on the dot. And then on the outside of my baluster going up into the rail, I'm going to have 2 7/8. And then on my other post, I will have 2 7/8. I see that asymmetrical, I see this a lot on deck projects, and there's really no excuse for it. Just to pull your tape and to cut it to length, there's really no excuse for it. You guys watched me real time cut this panel to length, but so that it's symmetrical and meets code, and it took me all of 2 minutes. There's really no excuse to cut those panels vinyl or steel, anything like that prefabricated. There's no excuse to be cutting that to length where it's not symmetrical. Keep in mind, I'm holding my phone in one hand and working with the other. So obviously that guy's gonna snap in there pretty clean, right? And I'm doing it one-handed, so there's no excuse to have those railing panels off-centered or exceeding that 4-inch code. Just take the extra time to take 2 measurements, cut it once, be done with it. All right, guys.